Hi, this is Pat Moorhead with More Insights and Strategy, and I am here with Anshel Sag, Senior Analyst at More Insights and Strategy, and we're here to talk about the Galaxy Unpacked 2021 event. How are you, Anshel?
I'm good. I had to get up a little early for it, but I think it was worth it.
Good. I know this whole week for you has been getting up at some absurd absurd time, right?
Yeah,
CES and
it's actually worse than CES usually is because usually I start maybe at 9 or 10, but
yeah,
this is a 7, 6. It's been fun.
yeah, good. So hey, let's dive right in here. Let's dump right into the tech. Two major things were announced here: an entire new Galaxy Series S21 and also the Samsung Buds Pro. But we are going to go subsystem by subsystem. Make sure you hit us up in real time in chat. We're broadcasting from LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, and Twitter. So, Anshul, let's dive right in here and talk about the S21 camera. Camera functionality has always been a hallmark for the company. They do a lot of their own, and it seems to be this fight between kind of three clumps of competitors. Some really strong competition out of the Chinese vendors like Huawei and OnePlus. Apple, I always give credit for consistency in what they deliver, but it's really this fighting from a scale standpoint, a fighting match between Samsung and Apple.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the Chinese vendors like Xiaomi and Oppo have also put up a pretty good fight in terms of delivering a very high quality camera.
Yeah, they
But
certainly win. What's that
yeah,
syndicated camera? Yeah, yeah, they win that. I think as Americans, sometimes we miss that because their products aren't as available over here, and in terms of Huawei, not available over here.
yeah, and it's mostly, I mean, it's usually a three-way fight between Huawei, Xiaomi, and Apple,
Yeah.
with Samsung also being in that fray. Um, and it basically just comes down to whose phone is the most recent. And I have a very strong feeling that with this updated camera array on the S21 Ultra, you're going to see a new category of scores coming out for Samsung that will put it back in the top five.
Yeah, let's drill into this, Anshul. So I'm spotting one, two, three, four, five sensors
Yeah.
and a flash. And I know I will always defer to you on photography. So I'm gonna give this one to you.
So they brought back for the Ultra, they brought back the 108 megapixel camera. This one has the ability to capture 108 megapixel images, but because of a faster processor, they're able to add uh, an additional wide angle camera, which is for ultra wide shots.
Yeah.
Then you have the telephoto 3x and the telephoto 10x. So you now have four image sensors instead of three. And then you have a laser autofocus sensor, which is basically designed for focusing within anything inside of 40 centimeters. And the purpose of having the 108 megapixel sensor is it actually gives you the ability to do a lot of things with the other sensors and use pixel binning to essentially sharpen images or do digital zoom. And what I think is a real big improvement over, let's say, the Note 20 or the S20 Ultra was that the last generation, first of all, didn't have a 3x um, and a 10x. It had one zoom lens and it was a 5x. So Samsung is kind of leaning in on zoom here. I would expect that the software zoom on this phone will look really, really sharp at 20x zoom, which the previous models only really looked really sharp at about 10x. Most people didn't even realize that the 10x zoom was software and thought it was an optical zoom.
Right.
Uh, so it was a very high quality 10x zoom, but I believe they'll probably get somewhere between 20 and 30x, looking like it's a optical zoom, even though it is a software zoom.
Anshel, when Samsung brought out this notion of this 100x zoom, I want to call it. I think it was space zoom.
Space zoom, and they're still using that terminology.
Really excited. Everybody was really stoked. Used it, and I found myself wanting to go back to the 30x. That was pretty much the max that I would take. Are you seeing anything in this technology that where you would actually want to use the 100x, meaning an improved lens subassembly? I mean, we haven't used it yet, or
Sure.
better compute algorithms.
So I would say one, the compute capabilities, because this is running the Snapdragon 889, the camera subsystem has improved by about 20%. So it's about 20% faster. So I think adding 20% performance for the camera capabilities will make the camera run smoother. I think that really show up on the 108 megapixel camera, because I've used the 108 megapixel on the S20 Ultra, and there was a shutter lag, and there still is a bit of a shutter lag on the Note 20 Ultra as well. So I'm hoping that they can get rid of the shutter lag on 108. But as far as zoom goes, I have a feeling that the maximum usable zoom will probably move from 30 to 50, because I also agree that 30 was kind of the maximum that you were willing to accept in terms of quality degradation. After that, it really fell off pretty hard. Um, and 100x felt very like pixel zoomy as opposed to optical zoom. So I think you're probably going to see 50x become the new 30x. And I think 100x will become more usable, but there will probably still be a lot of post-processing visible, because it's essentially a pixel zoom.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And, you never say never that smartphone photography innovation can't help, but this giant gap we have right now really is about distance. And it's a physical limitation, because you can't have a 6-inch lens sticking out like you do on a pro camera. And you're balancing those physics limitations with the ability to do compute really, really well.
Yeah, and I mean the thing that the way they were able to do a 10x optical zoom on this is they went with a dual folded optic design.
Okay.
So in order to fit a 5x into a phone, which almost all major OEMs can do now, they had to fold the sensor, because normally the sensor is parallel with the phone, and that's how it captures an image. But with a folded optic, it's actually perpendicular to the phone, and then the lens is bending the light into the sensor facing sideways.
Yeah.
And now they're doing a double fold, where it's folding once and then it's folding again, just to fit enough optics inside of the array so they can get 10x optical zoom.
Yeah. So hey, let's jump into the processors here. As you would expect, no surprise, Qualcomm Snapdragon was featured here, and here the venerable 888 5G mobile platform. I think people have been waiting for this for a long time. Really sizable bumps in processing performance for the CPU, for the GPU, and the NPU that makes all of these special features go round and round. What are you most excited about on the 888?
So I'm a modem guy, so I'm really excited about the X60, primarily because the X60 helps bring carrier aggregation in 5G in low band, so that you can have both coverage as well as high speed. Because I think long term, 5G is going to need carrier aggregation just like 4G did. And in order to improve the 5G experience and 5G speeds, you're going to need a phone that supports carrier aggregation. And it'll also be really interesting because the Snapdragon has the 888 has the new X1 cores from ARC. So it's going to have a very fast single core performance, and it has all of the latest cores from ARM on the A78s and the A55s, which is interesting because the Exynos version has a very similar layout. So it'll be really interesting to see how the Snapdragon 888 compares against the Exynos 2100.
Yeah, the last couple cycles, there's been a lot of pushback from end users with the Exynos because there was such a large performance and experiential difference between the two. And supposedly, right, the rumor mill says this new version of Exynos narrows that gap significantly.
But it's been narrowing it for 5 years.
Exactly. It's kind of like the snipe hunt. And I'll believe it when I see it. More competition is always better. But again, call me a little bit skeptical. Let's you brought up what got you excited in the X60. Let's just dive right into connectivity. And I'm going to bring up the spec sheet here, but it's not.
So,
I'll
talk about it while you bring it up.
Okay.
So the X60, because it adds carrier aggregation, it's going to massively improve the support for the types of bands that will be needed in the future as well. So, C-band, that's going to be supported in the future, which is what Verizon and AT&T are going to be using for their mid-band. Additionally, and not just having the ability to do millimeter wave, mid-band, and low-band, it also has Wi-Fi 6E, which you can see right there. And Wi-Fi 6E is a big deal because, first of all, there's new routers that are coming out right now for CES. Wi-Fi 6E is on the S21 Ultra only by the looks of it. But what's important is that is a completely untouched band. And that band means that you won't have much interference, you'll have very low latency, and you'll have super high speeds. So you can literally get like gigabit speeds over Wi-Fi. It's not a theoretical thing. It's something that's actually possible because there's nobody else using that band right now. Obviously, over time, more users will start using Wi-Fi 6E. But what's great about Wi-Fi 6E is that the only people that will be able to use Wi-Fi 6E are Wi-Fi 6 users and devices. And as a result, you basically can...
Are you looking at that comment?
Yeah, I know.
You have a fan, Tyler Partain. I
love it. And I mean, the reality is that it's going to be, because Wi-Fi 6 has such good quality of service experience, you won't have as much of the interference problems that you have on 2.4 and 5. So inherently, the 6E experience on 6 gigahertz will always be better than anything you can experience on 2.4 and 5, because there's just no legacy devices that can run it.
Oh, this is great. Let's jump into storage and RAM. Some people were talking out there about a decrease in at least memory point of view in order to take the prices down, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is interesting though that in the industry the shortage is over, and there's a lot available. We saw Micron, we saw Samsung's results. Interestingly, for me, the most interesting thing about RAM was the encrypted memory. That really ups the game. So, for instance, removing it, breaking it open and taking it. So, an extra layer of encryption is what got me excited.
I thought it was interesting that they went back to the old model of the S20 series, offering a 12 gig model and a 16 gig model, and pairing the 16 gigs of RAM with the 512 gig version of the device. I do like that they didn't really gouge for it this time. I think they're only charging something like $50 more if you want to go from 128 to 256. And I think that's because there's no memory card slot. And I also think that they're charging an extra $130, which is not really that bad when you're considering that you're going to 512 gigs of storage and you're getting 16 gigs of RAM. So I think if you're going to go for the Ultra, I think you should go the whole way and get a 512, because you're probably going to want to have that storage.
Yeah. So we can't leave here without talking about Phantom Black. Listen, I think Apple kind of kicked off what I would call a design renaissance in smartphones and the way that they talk about their colors, the way they talk about their designs. But we spent a good 2 to 3 minutes on the color was black, how to mix it, how it looks best in glass. How do you think that comes across to the industry, who right now, this is really who they're talking to right now, is the industry with these launch events?
I mean, I honestly think it's lost on most people. Unless there's some kind of, serious innovation that occurred to make this color possible, which it kind of sounded like there was, but there wasn't enough detail because it was a design presentation. It was really hard to understand why they put so much emphasis on it. I think people like the color black. It's very popular. I'm a huge fan of the color black. I may not be wearing it right now, but I do wear a lot of black clothes.
You're so funny. You're not emo, though, are you? I don't think so. All right.
But I think what's interesting is there are blacker blacks, like Vanta Black. And if they had done something with Vanta Black, that would have been really cool.
Yeah.
Because it's so black that it absorbs light. Admittedly, someone commented on Twitter that might make the phone a little bit hot, which is fair. But in general, I think that trying to talk more about the design obviously improves the perception of the brand, and I think that's really where they're trying to go with it, and kind of talk about the quality and the experience that the user gains through having a more thoughtful design. But ultimately, most people are going to say, oh, it's black. And unless it's like a new or unique color, I don't think people get that excited about it.
Yeah.
When they introduced that blue, that deep blue color, that was exciting because it was something no one had really done before, and it was a really unique color. I'd like to see Samsung lean more into unique colors and do something like that rather than talk about how deep their black might be.
Yeah, I think if you're going to spend $1,000 on a phone, I think it's this overall kind of portfolio thing that if you're going to spend $1,000 on your phone, you want to think that people are, I don't know, Samsung is putting all of their effort into it. I mean, let's face it, right now, the premium phone market is dominated by Apple, right? And, I think anything that Samsung can do to discuss that and talk about why they care about their design, I think the more comfortable that people will be about giving their money to Samsung versus giving it to Apple. Let's jump right into pricing and carrier, special carrier offers. Samsung did essentially reduce prices by couple $100 in certain scenarios. They did, of course, if you want to spend $1,600 on something, you can always get the Fold Z. And I think that there are people who want what they consider the best, and some people consider the best the thing that's the most expensive. But it's interesting. They did it in one way by removing some of the memory, but overall, whatever configuration you look at, the prices did come down. I do think that's a reflection of them transferring the cost reductions that they have on memory and of storage onto the consumer. What's your take, Anshel?
I honestly don't think storage and memory are that big of an issue for Samsung because they literally are the world leader and manufacturer of all of those. So when they include them, it's at cost. And I think that maybe in the past they had leveraged that advantage to offer more capacity, more RAM than any of their competitors could do. But clearly people didn't really value it that much because they weren't willing to pay more for it. So I think having lower entry points is always a beneficial thing as a manufacturer because you don't scare people away with higher prices. Uh, and offering higher end devices with more storage and more capacity is always a good thing to do. And I think it makes sense for Samsung to offer those higher tiers of 16 gigs and 512 in the Ultra and to offer them at a higher price tier if you want, but also at the same time offering a 799 S21 price tier, which gets the Ultra's pricing up to 1200, I think,
Yeah,
and the S21 Plus is 999.
that's good. Anything from the carriers that you thought was interesting? I
Yeah,
think
so
AT&T, T-Mobile, and AT&T are out.
yeah, I've got both of those up right now. It says that if you get an S21 5G, you can get an S21 5G for free. You do not, with a trade-in, obviously.
Yeah,
You do not need to add a line or port in. It's available on any plan for existing customers as well. So a lot of these offers are usually for new customers or if people are adding lines. Uh, but in this case, T-Mobile is offering it straight up, new customer, existing customer, just trade something in, and we'll give you a S21 5G. And their whole pitch is that these are they're on the only network that can offer standalone 5G and carrier aggregation because currently I don't think Verizon's offering carrier aggregation. Um, their millimeter wave is available in very few places, and they're still rolling out their low band. So I don't think you're seeing carrier aggregation there yet. AT&T is not quite offering carrier aggregation yet because they're mostly still operating on one band, but they will be soon. But right now, T-Mobile is kind of leading on that. And then on the AT&T side, they've got 50% off Galaxy Buds Pro when you buy a phone, and they're offering $800 off any device if you trade in. No, actually, no, this is a new and existing AT&T customers can get up to $800 off any device in the Samsung S21 5G series when they trade in an eligible device and buy on a 30-month installment plan with an AT&T Unlimited plan.
which plans do you think are the strongest between the two?
I think T-Mobile's offer is a little bit better because
Yeah,
they're not adding all these requirements on top of um, getting the trade in. First of all, they're saying up to $800 off as opposed to just saying you get a free phone.
right.
So I think T-Mobile's offer is a little bit more attractive, but it looks like pre-orders start on January 19th and availability is January 29th.
Nice. Hey, we got to get moving here. This is great content. I can't believe we missed pen support, but we did. Hey, we're going live here. We're moving quickly, but uh, Samsung has partnered with is it Wacom or Wacom?
I think it depends how you pronounce it, but yeah, I
I
call it
recall
Wacom.
Wacom, but not only their own pen, but also pens from 4 or 5 different vendors. The slide went so quickly, Anshel, that I completely missed it. But it really kind of blurs the line between the Note and the Ultra. And I think one of the biggest drivers here is the competitive game. You have some folks in China getting into the pen, and they need to come up with a different solution. But I also think it's differentiated versus Apple. Now, pretty much on your mainstream phone, well, premium line
Right,
from
only on the Ultra.
you can get pen.
I think what's interesting is this, lends more credence to the fact that the Note line might go away. But what I do think the opportunity they did miss was bundling this with the S20 or the S21 Ultra when you have a business bundle. I think the business bundle should be a pen and the
It would have
case.
made a statement for sure. I think a good marketing statement. I think business people are pretty good at surgical shopping. because they spent a lot more time thinking about it. But I think it would have made it would have made a big statement. Let's dive into the other big announcement, and that was the Samsung Buds Pro. Um, I see Apple kind of trading barbs back and forth. I will give the advantage to Apple in terms of being ahead of the game here, but this could potentially be the thing that swings the advantage over to Samsung. I mean, some of the stuff that I was most impressed of, not just about the ANC, but the ability for ANC and the voice to work together. So let's say you walk into a coffee shop, and this was the example they used, where you have ANC on and you start talking, it recognizes your voice and it pulls it down because it's expecting you to want to hear what the other person is talking about. And I really did appreciate that feature for sure. And I can't wait to use them for an extended period of time. I like the idea or the sound of having a woofer and a tweeter. Okay,
Mhm.
It definitely caters to my marketing sense of, yeah, this is what I would talk about. I don't know exactly how that's going to translate to having better performance in your ear. I know it absolutely works on an over the ear,
Right.
and translates to having a big stereo system. But we'll have to see how it translates here.
I think what's interesting is they went back to the Buds design previous to the Buds Live because I actually didn't like the way the Buds Live sat in your ear. There wasn't really a good seal. So I'm glad to see they've gone back to a more sealed approach like they had with the Buds Plus. I think these will have a much better bass profile because when you don't seal the ear, you lose bass. So I think these are going to sound a lot more bassy than the Lives did. And it sounds like if there's two drivers, there will be more bass and also more treble. And hopefully the ANC will sound
Yeah.
better because there's less interference coming from the outside. So I think overall these are going to sound a lot better.
Does the 99% ANC sound awful high as a number?
Well, it depends on what frequency you're canceling, right? So, 99% ANC in what range, at what frequency. So you can fudge that pretty easily. But I think ultimately, an ears on approach is the best way of assessing how good the ANC really is.
Yeah, I can't wait to get my can't wait to get my grubby hands on these. I do hope that they work as well in an iPhone as they do inside of the Galaxy. So, Anshel, let's get to our final take here, and that's a deeper Google integration here. If you remember 2 or 3 years ago, Google was talking a lot about its own branded services. They bought a tier 2 cloud provider as well to do that, and you could store your photos, right? And you also, there's still an application with the pen that is Samsung owned as well. But what we've seen since then is Samsung really partner more closely with Microsoft
Yep,
and then partner more with Google. But today, I feel like was Google's day, and we saw integrations. By the way, I'm stealing your Twitter photos. If you're wondering where that's coming from,
they look
but
familiar.
yeah, today was really Google integration, whether it was auto, whether it was integration with smart things. We're seeing a much deeper partnership today. And TM Rowe really went out of his way to say, what a big deal it is, right? When you have your CEO of the mobile division sitting in front of a sign that says Samsung and Google, that's signaling that something is important and you better pay attention.
Definitely. I mean, I honestly think I speak for a lot of people here when I say that like this has been a long time coming. Uh, I think that Samsung has tried for many years to try to do a lot of these things on its own.
Yeah.
And the honest truth is, Google is very good at software and Samsung is very good at hardware, and neither of them are very good at the other. And the reality is, I think a Samsung phone running the best of Google software is the best user experience. And I think that if you look at what can be possible, this press conference kind of gave us a glimpse into that, right? You know, being able to control your smart home with your Android Auto, like that's the dream.
Yeah.
And I unfortunately don't have Android Auto because I have a Tesla, but I love Android Auto,
Yeah.
and I wish I could have Android Auto on my Tesla so I could control my home from my car on my way home without ever having to touch my phone. And I think Google Assistant and having Nest integration with um, Samsung Smart Home integration is just it's a no-brainer. I have some Samsung smart devices, but honestly, I would love to see more tight integration between those Samsung smart devices and my Google Home, because I'm more of a Google Home kind of person. I even run the other one, which requires only one hot word, which I'm not going to activate.
Right.
But yeah, I just think that this tighter integration on IoT, as well as just overall deeper partnership, is going to be really valuable for people like me and you who use tons of smart home stuff.
Yeah. So, kind of rehashing it, you have Microsoft on the Office side and the gaming side, and it looks like you have Google for Photos and Smart Home and Auto. Samsung does give you, at least their current phones, it prompts you to store your photos with OneDrive. But I'm interested to see if that changed based on this contract, because I believe that they showed an example of using Google Photos.
It's weird because they showed OneDrive earlier too. They showed OneDrive during the presentation, and like honestly, I feel like Microsoft hasn't really done anything with OneDrive photos for a very long time. Meanwhile, Google is iterating Google Photos probably on a daily basis.
Yeah, I hedge both. You know, I send them all up to OneDrive, and I send them all up to Google Photos. And in fact, I think for batch, I even upload to Amazon as a, tie my shoelaces 3 times just in case. And I found better search capabilities of photos on OneDrive, better facial and more consistent facial recognition on Google. But anyways, I digress. Anshel, we went super long, but I think there were a lot of things that were part of this announcement. A lot of intricacies. I can't wait to get a hold of all these devices and take them through there. But thanks for coming on at such short notice. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to doing it again.
Definitely, I feel like we've got to do a CES one, if anything.
Definitely.
So with that, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. I know we went a little bit long. If you like what you heard, go to the More Insights and Strategy YouTube and press that subscribe button. If you really need it now, you want to press on notifications so you'll see whenever a new video comes out. With that, have a great week, and Anshel and I will be back soon chatting up CES.